Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. It's Friday, the sun is shining, the birds are singing. I hope the wind is at your back. I got a tremendous show for you today. An impressive show about modern age troubadours traveling the world, bringing laughter and sunshine to people who need it the most. Clowns Without Borders. Jed Lee and Naomi. I'm going to kick it off to you right now, Jed and Naomi, to maybe give us a little bit of background. Maybe we'll start with you, Jed. Maybe you could talk a little bit about who you are and what the mission is here today.
Well, first off, I certainly am not an expert in Clowns Without Borders, and that is why I'm so happy that my boss clown, Naomi, is here with me today. I will tell you that I've been performing as a clown and magician for over 35 years, and probably about 25 years or so ago, I was working at a fair up in Vermont, beautiful fair, and I was sharing the stage with another artist named Hoopo. And Hoopo and I had a great time that week. You know, I'd do my show, he'd do his show. We'd help each other on and off the stage. And his daughter was there, my kids were there, and it was just wonderful. A lot of times performers, you never meet someone before, and then suddenly you're sharing a stage and you're like your best buddies in 5 minutes. And that's, kind of what happened. And he was telling me he was part of Clowns Without Borders, and he was telling me a little bit about it. And it seemed like a fantastic mission and idea. But at that moment in my life with two young kids, a beautiful wife. That week we were purchasing a home. I had to leave the fair like immediately after my last show ended. I had to jump in my car and drive back to Boston to sign papers to buy the beautiful home that we're living in right now. It wasn't something that I could pursue at that point in my life. Things are a lot different right now. My kids are grown. My beautiful wife retired a couple of years ago. We've been very blessed. And I thought, maybe now's the time. So I reached out to Naomi and I said, hey, I think I'd like to be part of this neat little mission that you guys have. And I was very excited that she said, yeah. And I am about to leave on my first tour with Clowns Without Borders down to El Salvador. And I am beyond excited and grateful. And I'm learning a little bit about the organization, and it is just such an impressive organization. And it is so impressive and important that I am not going to try to tell you that. We have an expert here who can share that information with us. So I'm going to sit back and let my boss clown do her thing.
Naomi, tell us all about it. Like how was this idea conceived? What's going on over there?
Oh my gosh. So the story was conceived or the idea in 1993. And one of my favorite things about Clowns Without Borders is it's actually the idea of children, like most good ideas. This started when kids at a school in Spain were pen pals with children in a refugee camp in Croatia right after the Serbo-Croatian War. And, the kids in Spain, had sort of said like, hey, what's your life like? Are you okay? And these young refugees said, we're safe now. We have food. We have shelter. But what we really miss is laughter. And these kids in Spain were like, oh, well, we have a great idea. We're going to send you a clown. And the kids in Spain were lucky enough to live in the same town as Tortel Poltrona, who's this incredible clown in Spain. He was for a long time a TV personality also, and he's a circus performer. And these kids said, Tortel, you have to go. You have to go to Croatia and perform. And he did. And so that's the beginning, the middle, and the end of it, right? Is listen to kids. They have great ideas. Be invited, and as long as people keep asking and saying, yeah, you know what, we're in this hard situation, but what we really want is to have that full part of our humanity of laughing and being in community together, then Clowns Without Borders keeps on going. So that's, yeah, our mission is to share laughter, a moment of joy, and also a moment of awe. I think about it as offering a moment to gather and to share an experience other than the displacement or the tragedy or the crisis that a community is in.
Oh man, I lost my connection.
Oh
Nay,
no!
maybe I
Well,
can't.
Naomi, George is having some issues, so why don't you and I just chat here for a minute until he comes back? I'm curious. Do we have any idea as to how many people are experiencing this kind of life? How many people might be in refugee camps at this moment?
Oh no, Jed, I just started with the hopeful piece, and now, so unfortunately, displacement, a lot of times when I say refugee camp or displacement, we think tents and we think short term. But unfortunately, that while that may have been true 25 years ago or 30 years ago when Clowns Without Borders started, now unfortunately people are become displaced and often stay displaced. So last year we crossed over to over 100 million forcibly displaced people in the world. And so that's people who are displaced because of war, because of socioeconomic reasons. They're increasingly, an increasing population of people who are displaced because of environmental disaster, and then also indigenous people who are displaced. So yes, unfortunately, I do know that number, and I also know and believe that, where so many resources are scarce, laughter, a sense of self, a sense of having one's own culture, those aren't bound or limited by any physical goods. Those can exist regardless of how many visas there are or are not.
Yeah. This brings up a good point. I think I'm back here.
You're back.
Yes, I'm so stoked. Thank you for your patience. It's in some ways it's both beautiful and heartbreaking, and it seems to me that is where the human spirit lies. But here's a question that maybe I can shoot off to you, Naomi, and that is, when you think about laughter, can laughter and wonder transcend language barriers and cultural differences? And how do you plan to connect with the children at the performances?
So yes, laughter and language. I mean, if you think about it, I don't know if you've ever spent time with a baby, but like babies tease, and they're really good clowns because they'll do something to get a laugh, and then when they get a laugh, they'll do it again, and they will do it again and again and again and again and again, and they'll do it until you stop laughing. And I think clowns are really similar to that, like, teasing baby, right? Where like, I will do this until you stop laughing, and maybe even a little longer after you have stopped laughing. But I think that in so many ways, humor and the core human experiences of joy and sadness and frustration, we can tell so many stories physically or vocally without language. If I come on stage and get stuck in an imaginary, pool of cement, it's very clear what's happening, that I'm stuck, and and then I can go through my full range of emotions about it, and the audience absolutely knows what's going on. Or Jed comes up behind me and takes my hat, and I can't find my hat or him. Everyone in the audience will be shouting, he's over there, and we can have a long chase scene of me not knowing and the audience knowing best.
It's wonderful to me. When you talk about a skit about being stuck somewhere, does that play, like, does that go into the setup of it? Like on some level, you're going to a place where people may feel stuck, and then you come out and you do this skit and you make light of it. And in some way, you're communicating to them, not only through laughter, but through actions like, hey, part of life is getting stuck, but that you can find a way to find the beauty in it. Is that something that goes into the way you're thinking about setting up the skits?
Yes. And often those pieces of, the most basic stories is I have something and you want it, or and that can play in so many ways, or to play with these power dynamics. And that's something that we talk about as a team, because of course we as Clowns Without Borders are arriving with tickets to leave, with a huge amount of privilege. And so it's about finding ways to tell those stories, but also to sort of shift the dynamic, because it's really different. And if I just come in and kind of do a virtuoso juggling act, that's not something I can do. Really real about that. And it's not about, hey, look at this cool thing I can do, but about finding that common humanity. And so, yeah, stories of travel, of being new to a place, stories of being stuck, of one person having something. There are places where we will truly play with putting a rope on the ground and doing sort of like a border crossing. And it's all mostly without language. It's pretty metaphoric, but also, lets people tap in. And I think laughter is often the easiest way to tap in, but then we invite people to go through all the other emotions that the clown goes on, into the sense of sadness, the sense of frustration, the sense of, oh, okay, now I have to try this again.
I'm often reminded there's that famous picture of like one clown crying and one clown laughing. And it seems to me sadness and humor are really connected in some way. Sometimes we laugh so hard that we cry. Like what's going on with that dynamic there, and how do you use that?
This is me getting all my ideas at once. So a big piece of it is cracking the door open for emotion, right? And when we think about trauma, especially, trauma is about being kind of being trapped in the past, right? It's a shutting down, a feeling of closed off. And laughter is very much about being in the present. And in some ways, tears are also, right? Tears and laughter are both the kind of antithesis of that freeze motion. And so, and they're so big, right? They kind of take over. You can't laugh without breathing. And also, unless something is only a little funny, you can't really control it in the same way as when you're really crying. And so, yeah, I think that's the connection, right? And those huge big emotions that take over and aren't just in the emotional realm, but have such a big physical counterpart.
I love it. That's a wonderful answer. It's so amazing how, whether you call it the spirit or you call it emotions, but there's this thing bigger than all of us that we're part of, and we can connect to it. And I can feel your sadness, or I can feel your laughter. And like, it's so beautiful to think about the way we can move between and through emotions and actually feel what someone else is trying to convey to us in some ways. Jed Lee, let me ask you this. I know I've seen some videos of some of the things you do, and I've listened to some podcasts. What is one of the most profound or unexpected reactions you've ever received from a child during one of your shows, and how did it impact you?
Well, the most amazing, unexpected thing, and I didn't know it was unexpected at the time, I had a young girl up on stage when I invited her to come up on stage, and her teachers saw who I had invited on stage. The teachers kind of freaked out. And she came up on stage and I said, "Hey, what's your name?" And she didn't answer me. And I said, this is a community with a large Hispanic population. So I asked her name in Spanish. She still didn't answer. And I said, "Wow, you must be nervous. Don't worry about a thing. All these kids here, they love you. Could you all please give my friend a nice round of applause and welcome her to the stage?" And at that point I heard, "Mi nombre es Maria." And so me and Maria did this magic trick. We were talking. I was trying to speak to her in Spanish, speak to the audience in English. I didn't realize at the time until after the show when her teacher came back into the auditorium with Maria and the teacher was in tears. I didn't know that Maria was a girl with autism and had been mute, had been silent. That she had been in the school for 2 years and she hadn't said a word to anybody in any language until she was on stage in front of 1,800 kids. And that was certainly unexpected.
Yeah.
But it was amazing and it was beautiful. And I remember people there turning to me and said, "How did you do that?" And I said, I didn't do anything. This was just the kids made her feel welcome. You guys allowed her to come up on stage and try something. She wanted to try something. I was just there. It was something that happened around me. And it was an amazing honor, and it reminded me at a very early time in my career that what Naomi and I do on stage is a real privilege. It's a gift that we can have a tremendous impact on people's lives, even if it's I was going to say, even if it's just bringing a smile to their face. In a lot of moments, a lot of instances, bringing a smile to somebody's face is pretty huge.
Yeah, that brings a tear to my eye. Sometimes the magic that can happen when we're just in a group or it reminds me of like that pebble in the pond, like bringing someone up on stage is like throwing that pebble, but then the waves that radiate from that impact, like the smile that their parents must have had, or the way the other children felt, or the teachers, or you telling me the story today and it having rippling effect to all the people listening. It truly is a magic time out there. Naomi, is there a special event that you can remember that kind of took your breath away?
Oh, well, in some ways, that story that Deadly just told is when he told me that story when we were talking about if he was a good fit. And that was kind of my moment of being like, oh, yes, you really understand this. And, so much of the work of CWB is having, having those great childhood moments. And ideally, every child is having so many of those that they lose track, right? I think back to my childhood and I'm like, whoa, there are a few. And I do remember one incredible clown show I saw as a kid. And I know, my life was full of so many great moments that I've forgotten. But as performers, as educators, as people around kids, we never know which are going to be the ones that stick, for better or for worse. And so that's just a big piece of why we do what we do, hoping we create that moment, one that really sticks out for me is arriving in a town in Haiti that I had been the year before, and it was sort of following two different hurricanes, and I got out of the car and was greeted by these two kids who came running over and recognized me from the year before, and then they performed my act from the year before. And it was this incredible moment of just seeing, oh, yeah, this is the impact. It's not like, okay, sure, we're there, we do a 45-minute show, we stay another 45 minutes playing and interacting, but the real learning, the real sort of development and healing happens after we leave and kids say, here's how I'm going to make this my own. And I think that's especially the magic of clowns is, right, like training for years to make something look easy and to give that impression so the 6-year-old can see what I do and have this idea of, oh, I can I can do that. She's just a sort of dumb, clumsy adult. I can do it better. And that piece that they had spent this year replaying the scene, making it new and making it their own. And that's the real goal of a Clowns Without Borders show, is to do all of this work to get the to get the performers there, to get the audience there, to do the show, and then to leave with this sense of the focus shifting back to the community, so that then they're the ones who are sharing stories with each other, or then it's the kids who are becoming the stars. And so but that one, I was very glad I had a new act for that year.
Wow. It speaks to the idea of healing as contagious. In some ways, like, you go down and you the same way we catch colds from people, maybe we can catch laughter from people. It seems like it's something that continues to go forward. It's kind of an interesting idea. What do you two think about healing and laughter as contagious?
Well, I think certainly being able to look at something in a positive way, can. I just finished reading a book about that whole thing. Psychologists looked at the placebo effect, and it's like, yeah, this really works. If someone thinks positively, they can take a sugar pill and then heal themselves. I think it makes total sense that if you're with a group of people and people are positive, in a certain situation, they're more likely to find a way out of it, and to find healing and fellowship.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea to think about, and it's wonderful to think about being able to spread joy to people who may not even speak the same language. Or what about, Naomi, do you feel that, or do you believe that comedy and magic have the power to inspire creativity and young minds facing adversity in countries you've never been to?
I do. And some of that is, and to be part of the, the healing, it's, hope matters there. I wish I had I'm not a, tomorrow at 3 a.m. I'll be like, here's the name of that study I meant to cite. But for now, we'll put it in the show notes. These studies around the difference of outcomes for surgical patients, and sort of that hope matters, a sense of agency, a sense of safety. Those pieces matter. And so often that comes, I think, from hope, from a sense of being seen and being heard. And we know that children across any demographic are often don't have that agency, right? Or often aren't heard. And especially in places where kids are in a challenging circumstance and know that, I'm rambling. I'll tell a story. Last year, I was in Iraqi Kurdistan, and we were performing for Iranian Kurds who had been displaced for generations. So at this point, it's children who've been born in these camps, and they are stateless, which means they don't have papers. So there's one of the big issues for the youth is this feeling of hopelessness, right? This feeling of, okay, I can do as well as I can do in school, but then there's no way to go because I don't have documents, I don't have opportunities. And there had been a few examples of a girl who had been on a sports team at her high school, and the team did really well. They were invited to go to do a big championship, and she couldn't go because she couldn't do that travel. And after the show, we heard from a few kids, oh, now I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a clown. And Not that we're necessarily inspiring awesome economic opportunities for young people, but I think, again, that piece of seeing something and in a performance, in a clown show, you can see a direct impact, right? That moment of, whoa, this person is laughing. Oh my gosh, that person who I don't normally hear laugh, or the person who I don't normally see play is now playing. And that can be really inspiring as both a performer and an audience member.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. It seems that laughter is what generates the resilience in the face of adversity, because some people walk right up to that door of adversity and they're afraid to even touch the door handle, and they may never even walk through it. But if you can have the courage to laugh and realize, like, what's the worst that can happen, and you can find something beautiful about it, or something comical about it, or you can just associate it with a smile. Now you have the courage to at least grab the handle, and then you have the courage to open it up, and then the courage to kind of walk through. But it's wonderful to think about the way in which laughter and humor can overcome adversity in places that we've never been before. Another question I was thinking about is, in what ways can the principles of comedy and magic be applied to life itself, offering lessons of adaptability and finding joy in unexpected places?
Wow,
Jed,
I didn't expect this is like PhD level conversation.
You guys are traveling the world, though. Like, both of you see things that no one has before, and I think these are important. I think that you're really finding ways to connect with people, and you're good at it.
Well, I think one of the things certainly that magic does, and certainly that humor can do, is just inspire the possibility. When kids, when there's a kid up on stage with me and I say that, there's an invisible egg right over your head. Can you see it? And kid will say, no. Well, that's great. It's invisible, but take it down and feel it. And then that child is able to actually make that egg appear because of what they do. And the audience sees the egg appear. Boom. It's funny, it's fun, but it's also inspiring. And even the kids, even the teachers, the people in the audience sitting back going, oh, that's just a trick. The clown did that. And there's a way, there's a secret. I don't know, but I know that that's not real magic. But it's getting people to think. I hear this all the time when I'm going to a inner city school and it's a middle school, and teachers like, oh no, you got to watch out for these kids. And at the end of the show, they're like, oh, I can't believe these kids. They were like, kids again. It was great to see. It's like opening up that a part of their mind.
Yeah.
That gives them hope, that lets them kind of shed all the nonsense that they feel all the armor they think that they have to have on to protect themselves in the world. I think the humor and magic, it kind of lets them kind of sit back and relax and say, yeah, I think we can make it better.
It's a great point, because it seems to me that a lot of the people, like, if you're going to a place that may have a war-torn area, or is plagued with poverty, or it has all these crises, on some level that forces kids to grow up way before their time, right? And in doing that, it takes away that avenue of laughter. Is it difficult? Like, how do you balance the environment you're in that can be probably pretty sad? And how do you still bring such a beautiful and warm and laughing?
George, we've lost your audio again.
Oh no! Oh no!
Now you're back. But
okay.
I'm going to recap what I think you said,
okay.
which is, when we're in places that have so often been defined by violence and conflict, what does it mean to go in and offer laughter? Was that more or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll give me a more versus the less. There's an expression in comedy of no comedy without conflict. And this idea that if we're just agreeing, there's no comedy. We need some sort of tension. And, often we're going into places where conflict is high. Conflict is what's been experienced. And I think about, but then also that feeling of when when a place or a community, a whole population or country gets defined by the conflict, and how do we balance that? When we were on the beaches of Lesbos, Greece in 2016, we were performing right as refugees were arriving, and we're the clowns are doing a show, and there's this man in a pink sweatshirt who's kind of talking on the side. And there's this moment where we can feel the energy turn because he's getting more and more attention with his commentary is getting more and more laughs. And so the clowns invite him on stage and sort of, and it's kind of that moment of like, wow, you have a lot to say. You want to take the stage. And one of the things he said is, he said, I almost died last night. I was in a boat last night. I almost drowned. And before that, I watched my father die. I watched my home be destroyed. I deserve to laugh. And he's telling this story that I can only tell in this heavy way, but he's telling this story and it keeps being punctuated with laughter and these moments of the audience recognizing themselves in the story, and also this um this cheering him on. And that's our tagline is resilience through laughter. And that piece of saying, okay, in a time when news headlines around the world were only talking about the lack of humanity that had led to this crisis or being faced, here's a moment of that real humanity of saying, you know what? I deserve to laugh. I have a story to tell. We also on that tour, we started playing with some of the kids on the rubber rafts that were partially deflated and using them almost like a trampoline. And that we have a picture of it. I think it's my best example of what is resilience and what is resilience through laughter, and that place of bouncing back and using these objects, this that are so representative of the conflict, of the trauma, and then turning them, saying, hey, is there a way to use this for healing? And never in a way that's pretending, oh, this conflict didn't happen, right? We've all experienced how terrible it is when someone's just like, positive vibes only, right? And I'm like, don't tell me to write in a gratitude journal. Like, this terrible thing just happened. But in that moment where you can look at someone and have that moment of like, yeah, this is really terrible. I see you. Do you want to play? And in so many ways, humor in moments of sadness, it's such a relief, but also that place of being so close to tears. I remember a moment of laughing for the first time after a close friend died, and that moment of, oh, I'm going to be okay. And also, oh, I'm going to be okay.
Wow. That it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Does it get harder to do? I mean, is it something that you want to go back to it and do it, but do you find yourself craving to do it more, or is it hard to do? Like it's fascinating to me. I'm so thankful that you're doing it and you're bringing people to do it. But what's it like after you have the event? Do you have that same feeling of like, I'm okay? I'm okay?
For me, it got harder when I became a parent. And yep. And it goes back and forth, right? I think it depends. It depends what day you ask me. On one hand, we're always learning about communities by the human rights violations they're experiencing, and also what's funny. the past 2 weeks have definitely been really hard in these moments of we had to really shift the tour to Guatemala because of the violence there. It's hard to look at right now all I can do is check in with our partners in Palestine and Israel and know that it's not a time we can go. And for me, it's truly believing that laughter is a right, play is a right that keeps me going, because as soon as I let myself think, oh, does this really matter? That's when that's when I go for a deep dive. And so really believing, yes, everyone has the right to experience and express their full emotional capacity is what keeps me going.
I love that, Naomi. It does matter. It does matter. It matters to all the kids out there. It matters to the parents of those kids out there. And it matters to hopefully everybody listening that there's people that want to do that. I'm thankful to both you, Jed Lee, and Naomi. It's a wonderful thing. And I think it expands on the spirit we all need in order to be successful. It also sheds light on the problems that are happening. In some ways, you're bringing laughter to the people there, but you're also bringing attention to the problem areas.
I do believe it when Naomi is posting on social media, the Clowns Without Borders tour, the recent one to Turkey, and seeing the families that were just devastated by the disaster there. It does remind people past the headlines that this tragedy is going on, and it just might be in the news for a day or two, but there are people that are suffering for a long time. I know in my own family, the people, Clowns Without Borders had a marvelous tour of Puerto Rico, and people are still suffering in Puerto Rico a couple years after the hurricanes, and that's part of the United States. And so yes, I'm really happy that Clowns Without Borders and Naomi and the other artists are reminding people that there are our brothers and sisters are out there, and they need our help.
Yeah. In some ways, I think laughter is therapy. It does give us this sort of third person perspective of the situation we're in. What is your take on humor as a form of therapy? It seems like it does pull people away from the incredible situation they're in. Do you think of laughter as therapy?
Oh, ready? Now you're going to get a really diplomatic response from me. So I think laughter can be therapeutic.
Okay.
And in that, in the way that taking a walk or any of the kind of self-care pieces, I'm really clear that while laughter can have that benefit, our artists are professional clowns and not professional therapists. So I'm working on adding training for our artists for their own sort of mental health first aid, but that our job is to show up as clowns. And often we always work in partnership with other organizations, and a lot of times with the child health workers, with the people who are social workers, who are therapists. But in this moment that we are offering really short-term and really short interactions. So we're not therapists.
Right.
But again, that doesn't mean that laughter doesn't have a positive benefit. And we have seen, and you know that there's so many different ways to connect with someone. And we've heard from field staff, wow, I haven't heard that child speak in weeks, or parents who say, I haven't heard my child laugh. And so we know that our work can have a really great impact of opening up a door towards healing. But Yeah, that's my very like, no, we're not therapists. And um and I think part of that is also as being really clear of working with the artists and wanting to make sure that they stay safe and healthy emotionally is being really clear. Jed, your job is to go and to be the best performer you can be. And while you're in your red nose or your silly hat, your job is to be there looking for the game, looking for the moments of connection, and not there looking for, oh, is that kid hungry? Oh, what might be the long-term consequences of this? Because that's not what we're there for. And again, that's the true belief that laughter, a moment of connection, of emotional response is enough.
That
Sorry,
is,
I'm done now.
no, it's beautiful. It's really well said. And I think it paints a beautiful picture of what it is you're there to do. And it's walking that tightrope of culture and understanding and humor and beauty and the human spirit. When we talk about culture, humor seems to be something that, while it can transcend different cultures, some things are funny in a culture and some things are not funny in another culture. Are there certain jokes that work everywhere?
Uh,
Um,
I was going to say, when you're talking with kids, I haven't been in a culture, and again, I haven't traveled around the world, but here in the United States, you're performing for kids from all different cultures. I haven't been in front of a culture that where kids didn't laugh at a good butt wiggle.
I laugh at that.
I was going to say fart jokes. Fart jokes are pretty funny. And there are some places where it's, like, okay, we can't do this here. But in general, what's pretty funny is the person in charge being incompetent. Like that.
Nah.
Um,
So funny.
we
It's true.
we all like to make fun of the boss, and so a lot of times our shows will have, like the person who's really high status and they just get things wrong, and that's always funny. Incompetence, I think incompetence in a leader in a like short in a performance setting is really funny.
Oh, it's funny to know that Ariadne thread of truth runs through every culture. Like, that's just human nature. It's so hilarious. What about, do you, like, I'm willing to bet that both of you have so many incredible stories. Have you thought about doing a book, or do you do a documentary when you go? Do you film it so people can do it? Is there something like that in the works?
Wow, those are great ideas. Those are definitely not new ideas, and um, we're a really small organization. That's my excuse. We do make sure to have a photographer with us for at least part of each tour. So the best way to see those pictures is on our website or our social media, and we really try to make sure that we're always showing those photos. We've had a few short documentaries. The idea of a book is such a great idea. It's wow, if you're someone who's listening and you're like, yes, I have the funding to make this happen, great, cool, give me an email. But it's I think we're right now so much at the place of how do we use all of our energy to do the work firsthand.
Yeah. Creating the story, writing the story is something that comes after creating the story. But just talking to you today, I could see a series of like Clowns Without Borders, Afghanistan, or, it's wonderful. And I think that what you're doing is beautiful, and it's so contagious, and something about laughter when the world, I don't know. Do you think that here's an interesting question. Do you think that the world is always trying to, on some level, make us aware that there is beauty in the world? Like, I know when I go outside and I could be having a really rough day, or maybe something bad happens to me, but I can see the sun shining, or I can see this little bird that flies by and lands by the seat like he's trying to talk to me. Do you think that there's like a language that the world is speaking to us, and you can tap into that?
Well, I mean, George, I know myself. I find lots of beauty in sunsets and sunrises and beautiful scenery. But to me, there's nothing more beautiful than the smile that I'll get on stage from a kid.
Why? Why is that the most beautiful thing to you?
It's hard to explain when you're on stage. And if you have kids, you've experienced this where you're looking at your kid and all of a sudden their eyes just kind of light up, and it's almost like life slows down, and suddenly this expression is coming to the kid in slow motion. You can see everything, the eyes start to light up and the nose and the smile gets there. And, something that takes an instant seems like it's taking forever, and it's taking forever because it's just so beautiful. I think we all, at least me, I want kids to be happy. I don't want kids to suffer. I want them to understand that they're loved and that they have the potential to do amazing things in their lives. And when I see a kid smile, and when they're smiling at something that we did together, then that to me, it's like kind of like, oh wow, we're kind of sharing that moment together. I had a pastor. I don't mean to get religious, but one of my priests, really amazing guy, and he said to me, he says, Jedley, I think heaven, anytime we do something out of love, and the person that we're with is also acting in love, and that moment we're experiencing what heaven's going to be like. And I guess for me, being on stage with a kid and doing something together with the kid, and having that smile, that's kind of like heaven.
Oh, it makes, there's another passage that I like to cite sometimes when I find the world is bearing its weight on my shoulders, or you feel like the world's against you. And it's this, I forgot, I can't quote you what the numbers are, but it's something along the lines of, I was born with a thorn in my side, a messenger from Satan to torment me. I prayed to the Lord to take it away. And in his infinite wisdom, I heard his voice say to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for in weakness, my power is made perfect. And it gives me goosebumps, because we all find ourselves in this moment of weakness. But if you can understand that the God's power, or the power of the world, or whatever divinity you believe in, is made perfect inside you when you're weak, like, wow, that's a beautiful thing to think about it. I really think that what you're doing is connecting on a level that most people may not get to feel in some levels, and to be up there and to go out on a limb and travel the world and try to find the people that need to smile most. I don't know if there's a higher calling than that. Thank you.
And I think my answer around, the beauty of the world is, yes. And it's that question of being open to it. And I think one of the things that we see again and again, especially from parents, is, parents aren't watching the show as much as they're watching their kids watch the show. And that piece of wanting to know that our family members are okay. And a lot of times the biggest laughs, the biggest moments of joy are not from us, but are from, it's like there's a grandma who has a really funny laugh. And when she laughs, everyone turns and then laughs at that, or the baby who kind of wanders on stage, does anything or nothing, and then wanders back. And that's what gets the moments. And it's those moments when we are in in or experiencing crisis, when we're in that toxic stress of being shut down, of being, in survival mode, of feeling the weight, then it's really hard to see, to see the good. It's really hard to see, wow, it's a beautiful day. And that's not a judgment. That's true. And one of the pieces again in Lesbos is a group of men asked, hey, can you teach us some magic tricks? Because what's for them, what they said was really hard is kind of losing their status a bit within their family. They were like, we used to kind of provide for our families, and now we're here in our camps, and we just want to do something where we can make our kids' eyes light up. And so that piece of, yes, there is beauty all around. There is so much, like, I think the biggest moments of joy I've witnessed have been in the most unlikely places. And it's about sometimes having a catalyst for that, and also being open to the idea that's okay, right? Because if we only think about humanitarian response as material goods, then we're always going to be denying those 100 million displaced people all of the other experiences of life. If we are only thinking in terms of food, medicine, and shelter, we're really closing down opportunities. And so it's that place of remembering, yeah, everyone has the right to that sense of awe and beauty from the world.
That is a phenomenal point. If you just focus on these bare necessities, in some ways you're underscoring that that's all that life is, but it's so much more. This must have changed you as a person, like going and traveling to all these places and getting this insight about what's important in life, and making huge sacrifices to do what you're doing. How has this changed you as a person?
Oh, I feel like you should like call one of my sisters for that, for the like inside scoop. That's the after show, right? Is them being like, wow, yeah, but can you believe she didn't call me on my birthday? I think the biggest change is truly that I don't think about the hierarchy of need anymore, right? Of truly believing that whatever someone's background, yeah, they have a right to all of the emotional, spiritual experiences of the world. And I think that's the biggest place, right? There isn't a ranking of suffering or joy, and our emotional realities are our emotional realities. And so often I think we discount our own experiences by comparing it, right? This idea of like, oh, but how can I feel this way? People are going through much worse. Or discount, like, does somebody really need laughter? Don't they, like, how can that person be choosing to buy a gift for her kid? Shouldn't she be focusing on vegetables instead, or whatever it is? And that sense of judgment or hierarchy, I think, has really shifted in me, and understanding that joy matters. Those good experiences matter, and it doesn't, looking around to see, oh, does someone have it worse than me, doesn't really matter unless it's, yeah, that's not a motivating force. So that's, I think, how it's changed me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's a wonderful insight, and I'm hopeful that people that listen to this, and myself included, can try to incorporate that more. This idea of judgment, it just seems like so toxic sometimes, right? Like we're constantly trying to judge things, but maybe we should just realize how lucky we are and try to spread that love to other people.
I'm all in favor of spreading love, George.
I know you are. You're an amazing human being. Both of you are amazing human beings. And I'm really thankful that what you're doing is spreading that joy and love around. We're going to have to, when is the trip? When is the trip coming up?
Well, I am looking forward to hopping on a plane this coming Thursday. So about 6 or 7 days from now. And you were talking about spreading the joy and spreading the love. We actually need some help doing that.
Yeah.
And there's a way for folks to kind of help us and not actually go on tour with us physically, but be with us spiritually. Because as I understand it, Naomi was telling me we need some help filling up the clown bus to travel around El Salvador. It's a small country, but we're going to be going from one end to the other and back to the middle and back up and down. And so we would love for folks to help fill the gas tank while we're down there. I've been told my AAA card is not going to work if we, run into some trouble. So there's a website people can go to and to help out. Am I right, Naomi?
Yes, George, I can send that to you. But yeah, that's kind of the piece.
Yeah.
One is follow along. If you are on either Facebook or Instagram, like joining and seeing what we do. One of the things we really work towards is sharing the stories of our audiences. And it's a great way of, if you only know about a place through kind of news headlines, it's really fun to get to learn about a place by the stories of what kids think is funny and important. Always a joy. And then, as Jed mentioned, we're working on filling up the clown card. Gas is our biggest expense, and right now, if you kind of need to quantify, but what difference do I make? Our shows are always free to our audience, but they cost about $11 per person for us. So for $11, you get a kid to a clown show, and and hopefully it's the show that becomes one of those lasting childhood memories.
What's the name of the website?
Oh, it's clownswithoutborders.org.
Clownswithoutborders.org. Clownswithoutborders.org. Ladies and gentlemen, what are you waiting for? Make a kid smile. Make a long-lasting lifetime memory and get a kid into a show. It's tremendous. And so how long is the trip down there? You're going to be down there for a week, a month, 5 days, 10 days?
We'll be down there for about 18, 19 days. Yeah, I'm real excited. My beautiful wife, not so much, but no, but I'm really excited. I've taken a look at the itinerary, and I've an amazing niece that I'm incredibly close to, who is from El Salvador, and we've been talking about it. And I'm so excited. Don't know, I just know we're going to run into lots of smiles, and I'm excited to be working with the other artists that will be on tour with me, and I can't wait to share with what happens with the folks who follow me on social media, with my family, my friends, and with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been brushing? You got a whole new routine plan? You got some new tricks you've been working on, or what?
This old clown is working real hard, and I'm working on learning how to walk again. So that's That's been my current challenge. But I met one of the artists I'll be working with, and we shared some ideas yesterday, and I can't wait to start rehearsing with her, and it's going to be amazing. Like I said, I'm just so, as we say here in Boston, George, I am so wicked psyched. It's going to be a great time.
Wicked psyched, man. That's so awesome. It's amazing. I'm grateful for it, and I would love to have you come back. And once you get back, maybe we could talk about some of the things that happened down there and try to keep the dream alive, and talk about the next one coming up.
Always happy to talk. That's one of the things my beautiful wife complains about. I'm always willing to talk.
Fantastic. So Naomi, what do you have coming up in the near future? You have this event planned for some people, but is there some other events that you have coming up?
We do. So this is the next month is exciting. Right now we have a team in Guatemala. We had to really pivot that team. And so right now it's a team of all Guatemalan artists who are performing. They start performing today. And then El Salvador. And then we have 2 tours coming up in Mexico, one in Puebla and the other in Guadalajara. And so those are also for migrants. And so that's an exciting, now through, I think today through November 24th, we have a show pretty much every day where it's going to be continuous clowning, and it's exciting. Sometimes you can see there are moments that sort of have a lot of unity across shows, and then also really different. Each tour is different. We create a new show for every tour, and that's a really exciting piece.
That is exciting, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm excited to talk to you guys. I'm really proud and thankful for both of you for doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing, and I know that the people and the hearts that you touch will be forever grateful. And so, well, before I let you go, is there anything else we should touch on?
I can't think of anything. Follow us on social media. There's a great Clowns Without Border has a great Instagram page, and of course the website. And I think that's just kind of reiterate that. Just can connect with Clowns Without Border, and it's a great organization to follow and to support.
Is there a donate button on the Instagram page and the Clowns Without Borders?
Yes. Yeah. It's I was like, it's we try to make it pretty easy. And I think the other piece that I so appreciate that you didn't ask, but aren't people scared of clowns? And I'm guessing that if anyone feels like they probably didn't listen this long. But for us, clowning is all about shared humanity. I often say this is my clown face. If you're watching, maybe I add a little pink to my cheeks, but we're not about covering ourselves up in bright colors and wigs and makeup. It's about the playful spirit, and that's something that we can all have and all bring. It's that moment of looking for the game, looking for the moments of connection. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think that deep down we all have an inner clown in us, and we all love to laugh, and it's what really bonds us. And so, well, fantastic. Clownswithoutborders.com. Is that right?
Yep. Oh, .org.
Clownswithborders.org. I heard if you say something 3 times, people will remember it. Clownswithborders.org. Clownswithborders.org.
Nope.
Clowns with borders.
Clowns without borders. Okay, let's try this again. Ladies and gentlemen,
borders
clowns.
Is something entirely different.
I think that's Washington, D.C. Clownswithoutborders.com.
No.
.org. .org.
Naomi, I think George is trying to be a clown here. This is really good.
This
Tell
is
me
when
again.
we get to make fun of the person who thought they were in power. This is
Yeah, this dummy.
proving my point of what's funny.
So it's clownswithoutborders.org.
One more time. I didn't get it. Here, tell me again.
It's clownswithoutborders.org.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I flubbed it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Go down to the show notes. And I'll put, when I load up the podcast, I'll make sure that we have the links to both pages, the Instagram, where people can go. And this is fantastic. I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And hang on briefly afterwards. I'll talk to you afterwards, but I want to hang up with our friends right here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Go down, check out the show notes, reach out to both of them. The beautiful team, and they have a beautiful mission. That's all we got for today. Aloha.